Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and click on the bell to receive the notifications. For some of us, music is a means to an end, and our futures literally depend on it. But then we have those to whom music is purely a hobby they enjoy, and whatever happens, happens. Today, we'll be speaking to a couple of artists who have dabbled a bit in both of those scenarios, if you can call almost 4 decades dabbling. Hailing from East Anglia, and pretty much responsible for keeping hip-hop alive all these years in that region of the country, on the 521 sofa today, we have Chrome and Illinspired.
Boom.
Easy. How you doing, guys?
Yes.
Good to see you.
Easy. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, good. First question I'm always going to ask is where you come from and what it was like in that part of the region where hip-hop is concerned, because that's your life really, isn't it? Although that isn't just your life, you've got more.
Yeah, well, not that, I mean, but back then as a kid it was.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Growing up it definitely was. It was
yeah, of course.
Everything was hip-hop. But I originally come from the Midlands.
Okay.
From Staffordshire.
Okay.
But then moved to Norwich when I was 10.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is when, you know, all of the DEF TEX stuff kind of like started to come about, and just down the road was Bill. Mm-hmm. In Bury St Edmunds.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
But you're from Bury St Edmunds, right? Like originally?
Well, I grew up there generally, yeah. So it's sort of Thetford, Bury, so it sort of switched between them as a youngster, basically, yeah. So yeah, mostly Bury St Edmunds.
So you guys have known each other from a very young age?
No. Like
Okay.
we didn't meet until mid-90s.
Well, I'd say that it was the actual gig, that gig we were talking about earlier, the Blade and Catch-22 gig.
At the Norwich
that was the
Arts
first
Centre,
time I
yeah.
ever met him, because I went up to ask him to put a record on and he ignored me.
I think he asked for Dr. Dre, and I was like, nah.
So I was there, with my man DBL for Bury, and we were both there like, go get him to play some Dre. He weren't having none of it.
So why not Dre?
Because I was East Coast, I was just New York.
Really,
I was either playing New York hip hop or UK hip hop.
You obviously were from, you said Thetford.
Yeah, Thetford, Bury
Right.
St Edmunds. Yeah.
And you know, when I was selling my records by mail order, that region of the country, man, the support was immense.
Yeah, I remember
like
that,
Bury
yeah.
St Edmunds, like the number of times I was seeing like Bury St Edmunds, Norfolk, and it was mad.
Yeah. There was
So
a lot
I know there was a
definitely
scene
lot of
going
love.
on.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. Like hip hop wise, I don't think there was even that much going on in like Ipswich or Cambridge, you know what I mean? East Anglia.
Yeah.
So Norwich was kind of like the place to go. If you weren't going to Norwich, you'd go to London.
Yeah.
So everyone would gravitate. You know, we had like Cool J and Public Enemy and, you know, Flash and the Furious Five and, you know, way back, you know. But no one else was really getting that sort of like stuff. So we were lucky that everyone came to Norwich, and so these connections kind of happened.
First time actually he acknowledged me, so I'd say basically it was I went up to it was Boxing Day '96, and there was like they had like a Boxing Day jam, and they were all playing upstairs, and there was like open mics and everything upstairs. So it was me, Just One, Lord Bongson, and Dan Lish.
Lord Bong.
Dan Lish.
Dan Lish.
Yeah, Dan
So we
Lish.
went
Oh
up
my
there, and
God.
there basically. We went up basically, and then Dan sorted it out and went over to him and was just like, right, we've got someone who wants to get on the mic and stuff. I remember him saying, right, next up is some bloke called Bill. I'm not sure who he is, but apparently he's all right. And I get on the mic.
Your
First
introduction,
experience,
and we just clicked. Like from then on in, it was like, okay, yeah.
So then, after that, it was just I was going to everything. So I was based in Bury, but I was going to Norwich, Cambridge, Ipswich, no matter what was happening.
Yeah.
Even if it was a Tuesday night, just an open mic or something, I was going everywhere sort of thing and was always turning up and stuff.
I remember distinctly going to a lot of events that was in Norwich. Yeah, and also a couple that we went to in Bury.
Yeah.
But I don't remember anything in Ipswich.
I suppose between like 96 to 98, the Trader Jack's nights, right?
Yeah. That
So there was a little club in Ipswich where they started bringing in people like Supernatural.
Okay.
DJ Noise played, and like Roots Maneuver played a few times, and you know, just they had a nice little thing going. In fact, that's where we really kind of made our connection, wasn't it?
When did you get into the whole culture?
It's the same story with most people, really. I remember Buffalo Girls. So what was that, 82? That's the first time I saw breaking.
82.
So then within like a couple of years, I was breaking and doing all of that. And there was a bit of a massive scene in Bury for the B-boys and stuff. And then Cambridge and Ipswich used to come and they'd battle on a Saturday afternoon and stuff.
Am I right in thinking because of the air bases as well? So
So you had like the American air bases and stuff and that. So you obviously had like these other people who knew a little bit more and stuff. So they were bringing things in and that. So I remember there was that sort of period. And then it was, as I say, I used to go fishing with a guy called Spencer and his stepbrother, Dan Lish.
What a genius.
Oh, he's absolutely amazing. Just
Next level.
amazing. That's who you got the tapes from. So you get the dub tapes. So I remember my first tape was Electro 9. And that was my introduction into sort of writing, to rap and stuff?
I suppose for myself, I was quite fortunate. My brother was 4 years older than me. So when I was, 7, well, I'm trying to think, so 82, 83, when Electro 1 came out, I remember my brother coming home from school with a copied tape. So, you're saying about dubbed and having that tape and hearing Electro 1. And then it was like, by the time Electro 5 came out, I was just like, this is just amazing. This is incredible stuff. And obviously for myself being in a small town, I couldn't go to a record shop. So getting those Electros was like, well, that was my gateway into everything. Do you know what I mean?
You were mad young.
I go back to my brother being 4 years older, and because he like fully immersed himself into like hip hop, and he was breaking, he was doing graph. I remember him doing graph like early 80s and stuff like this, and he was like into getting mum's turntable and trying to scratch, and mum's like, oh, what are you doing there?
Was it belt drive?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was actually. But I remember him cutting up one of his jumpers. Do you know what I mean? He got the rubber slip mat and like cut out his jumper, put it on there. So he made his own slip mat and stuff like that. And he's like, got the turn knob, trying to scratch on it. And that was early. You know what I mean? So this is like 84. And so by the time it came to 86, I was like, okay, yeah, well, I'm 11 years old now, and I'm already sort of trying to write rhymes. And he was like, well, we should actually start like doing some music. He had a copy of like the Double D and Steinsky lesson.
Yeah.
So he's like getting the breaks and literally just doing like 1-bar loops and stuff like that. And I started trying to write lyrics as an 11-year-old. I can't really remember the lyrics, but regardless, we were trying to do it. Do you know what I mean? It was just that bedroom kind of. We had a reel-to-reel like tape deck thing that my stepdad had, and he was like, "Oh, I'll get you this reel-to-reel." Plug the mic in, plug the from the tape deck audio in, sort of thing, and off we went.
What about you? I mean,
I was definitely a bit later on, sort of thing. I think the late 80s. It was sort of the last years of school, and I was just playing football, so I didn't have a huge interest, massive interest. Do you know what I mean? It was always still there. Raising Hell. Remember that when my mate, he came home with Raising Hell, and there's one swear word. I think DMC says motherfucker once on it, didn't he, or something?
Some son of Byford, isn't it?
Yeah.
Son of Byford, brother of I.
So like, I remember he bought that tape, and his mum walking in on that bit where there was a swearing made him take it back.
Brilliant.
Are you serious?
Made him take it back. So then it was like, I want that tape. Do you know what I mean? I want that tape. Sort of thing. So yeah, it's from then. But I think up until I started buying records properly, which wasn't until like 89, 90 when I left school. But through that period was sort of, it was just like football and just growing up, fishing and football sort of thing and that. And then I remember like my mate Rob like bringing out Ice-T tapes and stuff like that. So it was definitely had an interest there, but not deep. It wasn't deep. But then at the same time, while I was doing all that, he was already performing.
Obviously, there was a load of us kids that were into the whole hip-hop culture when we were growing up. But at the same time, there was, like, I know from experience in my school, there was a lot of people that didn't get what we were doing.
Oh, totally. It was an alternative thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't, well, I mean, breaking was the fad.
Yeah.
As it was with, like, BMXing or, I don't know, any of those things that sort of came and went fashion, But by the time it got to about 86, 87, it was like, no one in my class was kind of listening to it, do you know what I mean? And I distinctly remember sort of like having these tapes on my Walkman and everyone listening to Bros or stuff like that, do you know what I mean? And I'm kind of like, well, there's me listening to Hey, We Want Some Pussy by Two Live Crew or something like that, do you know what I mean? It's different. It was an alternative thing. It wasn't the mainstream.
So what do you think, like, changed to get everybody interested? Because it was a massive change. Like, hip-hop is now ruling the world pretty much.
I mean, there was a shift, wasn't there? Like, when sort of like Cool J made I Need Love and got into the charts, and then the whole Public Enemy, the whole sort of Public Enemy movement was a huge thing, and everyone's wearing their Def Jam patches.
And the Beastie Boys Liverpool gig, that was sort of renowned, you know what I mean, for the gig that everyone turned up, and the Beastie Boys didn't hardly perform because everyone just turned up for a fight, sort of thing. And that was that thing, and that was all over the news and everything.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that well.
So
was that the one when
I'm into this stuff. Do you know
was that the one where they also had that massive penis?
Yeah. Like the inflatable knob coming out.
The inflatable knob.
Girls in cages and stuff. But that shift, I mean, you know, in the time that we've been involved with this music, we have seen it go round in cycles a few times, right? And it comes and goes. Mm-hmm. And it did. It kind of it through the late 80s, it was massive, and then the early 90s, it kind of shifted, and you know, was an alternative thing again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It wasn't until like possibly
97.
Yeah, like with the backpack scene, but then all of the kind of the
Puff
move,
Daddy.
like with Puff Daddy and sort of Biggie and Tupac, that all of a sudden it was like, well, now hip hop is literally everywhere.
Yeah. But you know what? Obviously, that is their life. You know, this is what they created. This is the future they had. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So me, I want to know more about your life, your futures. How did this change things for you? Because, like, you know, I remember we came and did a show in Norwich, and you were our support act, and you must have been 12, 13.
Oh, so that was the Waterfront one, right?
Yeah. Right. I remember coming up to you.
I was 14 because it was just at the start of the signing the deal for Virgin,
which we'll come to as well.
Yeah.
But I think I remember coming up to you and going, "Yeah, that was sick, blah blah blah," and your balls ain't even dropped yet.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I was a bit high pitched.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, 14, I think I was.
We all thought we were amazing.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And we were all like, how come no one's, you know what I mean? And then you come along as this like 14-year-old, and you got record deals being offered. And not by small labels either, by majors.
That was 14. We'd already been getting interviewed for record deals like a year and a half earlier. So when I was 12, we did this competition at the Brixton Fridge called the Rap Clash, which we won. So we did a heat, won that, went back, did the final, won it. And of course, there were immediate like people, you know, coming round, so like, interested labels. And basically, there's a dude that picked us up was a guy called Trenton Harrison.
I know Trenton.
You know Trenton, right?
Yeah, I know Trenton.
So obviously he was, at the time, he was Rush Management.
Yeah.
So he kind of took us under his wing and he took us to like Jive, to Polydor, to MCA, and was like really sort of pushing. He had like Danny D came in to a session to help us like record one of our tracks. Yeah. Dancing Danny D, right? D-Mob. He came in and tried to kind of like clean up one of our tunes a little bit, and just so he could try and sell us to the labels, but it didn't really work. So eventually we ended up going to Virgin Records or 10 Records ourselves and said, we'll only let you hear our demo if you literally let us come down and actually sit in the office, you know what I mean? We're not just going to send you the demo. Eventually they let us come down, sat in the session, and Rob Manley, the A&R, just like, sign it, let's do this, let's get this signed, you know. And it was a moment of like, I mean, I was 14, you know what I mean? I'm like, what do I know about signing a record label? I'm naive, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm just like, wow, we're going to sign this record deal. I'm made for life. You know, obviously that was complete, like, dreams, you know. But
or delusions?
It's delusional, yeah. Well, it is, but I mean, like I said, I'm 14. We didn't have any management, do you know what I mean? No one was really directing us and telling us what was what was to come. So it was an amazing experience, and you know, I wouldn't change it, but it was like, what are we going to do with these like little kids from Norwich?
Yeah.
You know, so, how do we sell what we want to do? You know, because we're really, you know, we're all kind of like straight up hip hop.
During the interview, I want to ask a couple of hypothetical questions, and here's one of them.
Okay.
Right. So, how do you feel that affected your future in terms of, because like my experience of the industry is pretty much, if you get dropped by somebody, it's harder to get back in the game.
Yeah.
So when that happened to you, do you think that kind of screwed things up for you in the future?
It was a funny one, because we had a 2-single deal that they wanted us to make something a bit more poppy, a bit more accessible for the charts and so on. You know, they had producers come in. We didn't want to do that, so we kept sort of making hardcore hip hop. I remember they said, right, go back and make the second single, because we're not happy with the first one, see what you come back with. And we just delved deeper into it. Of course, the label said, no, that's not the direction we want you to go in, so they dropped us. And we took the music that we'd made with No Sleep Nigel, engineering it, and took it to our local label. This is the record here, actually. So, the Master Blaster EP, which yeah, the local label sort of picked it up.
Soundclash.
Soundclash Records, yeah, big up Paul, big up Soundclash. And we just decided to go independent and sort of do it our own way, which worked. I figure that if we would have stuck with 10 Records and released the single that they inevitably wanted us to do, you know, with the marketing behind it, it possibly could have done something, maybe charted. I suppose with me being so young, it was a gimmick.
Oh, obviously.
They would have obviously played on all of that, so I'm sure it would have charted maybe. Would we have carried on? Probably not. I don't know.
Around that time, you had people like Merlin that were blowing up as well.
Yeah, totally.
Just a little bit earlier.
And what our management told us, I think, is that they really sort of shot their load, basically, and just spent loads of money on loads of acts, loads of advances here and there, and they just like hemorrhaged and went.
So the label, so 10 Records went bust.
Well, it was kind of on that way to kind of like, you know, they at the time though they had Soul to Soul, and
massive,
yeah, huge, and like Mantronics,
Jesus,
you know, so they did have huge acts, but also they just had loads and loads of little acts. There was groups like Temper, do you remember them?
Yeah.
There was a lot basically, and we were in that mix, and they just let loads go. So, you know, would we have blown up? Probably not. Would we have made a one track that might have charted maybe top 30 or something like that? Maybe. I don't know. But what I do know is that the fact they didn't is it kind of gave us more hunger to go and do it independently. It's like, well, we're here making music now. Do you know what I mean? This is us. So what it did do was it spurred us on to make loads and loads of music, and we had like the best part of a 16-year career. Of like, you know, different incarnations within the group of DEF TEX, and like different band members come and go, but we kept it like our core sound and what we wanted to do.
That's because you were at the helm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were kind of controlling how you.
Yeah, well, myself and my brother and the other MC, anthropologist, and Shaw D. So the main four of us, we kept sort of like.
Shaw D, that's Delight.
DJ Shaw Delight, yeah. So we kept sort of true to it and stuck with it, you know, and built. You know, I'm proud of our legacy of what we had as a group.
You have to be. I mean,
not
many.
I wouldn't change it for a minute, you know.
Yeah, not many people got the opportunities at the age you did.
Yeah.
You know, so when you were, obviously you were a few miles away, were you seeing all of this going on?
No, not at the time. No, I didn't know nothing
oblivious.
about that. Yeah, didn't know nothing about that at all.
Okay.
So yeah, it wasn't really on my hip hop out of town. Was a bit off my radar.
We've talked about your group, but we haven't mentioned the name.
DEF TEX.
There you go.
Yeah. So DEF TEX. So, like I say, there you go, DEF TEX.
All right.
And this is the Master Blaster EP again, but this was
DEF TEX.
So this is what.
And it's graph tagged.
Yeah, that's my brother's writing. Actually, it's pretty poor, but that was the first album when we started making music on Sun Records, featuring some great MCs, legendary Hunkerboy Finn, Ty, rest in peace, Capo. Juice Aleem, yeah.
Ezra.
Wow.
DPF Ezra, +1, yeah.
Wicked.
And it was this was our, when was this? 2002.
2000. No, 2000.
It was 2000, yeah. 2000 this came out. So this is 10 years after releasing our first record. So, you know, this was 90. This is 2000.
From my understanding is that you released a record every year.
Until present day, actually, yeah. A physical release every year. You know, sometimes obviously more than one.
Was that a specific plan?
Not really. I mean, I think it was the fact of us being lazy and smoking too much, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And just not really being business-minded enough.
Okay.
So we'd kind of like, our output was lazy at best, yeah. That kind of get up and go to go and do it was actually quite hard, especially when you're stoned. Do you know what I mean? Sitting there like smoking and going, oh, I might write. Or we used to do freestyle sessions like regular, like all the time, always freestyling, but never writing.
Clock forward 3 decades. Have you learned anything?
Since starting making music with Bill, my output has been, you know, the progress has been massive. It's been, it's more enjoyable as well. You know, as much as I loved all of that DEF TEX stuff, there was always a conflict of kind of interests and ideas and who wanted to do what. Whereas it's a lot more simpler when it's just yourself or just the two of you. Do you know what I mean? So
Do you feel your age has something to do with it? Are
Oh,
people
definitely.
thinking
Yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah.
young, stay out of it, we'll just tell you what to do?
I think so. And with DEF TEX, I only really saw myself as an MC. I didn't really get involved on the production side too much, or the beat making side. I did a little bit, dabbled here and there, but I wasn't anything to do with it. So it'd just be kind of turn up, bust your rhymes, and then, you know, whereas now it's kind of like, it's all on me. I'm sitting there in my studio kind of thinking, right, what beat do I want? What am I making here?
Talk me through a day in the process of you two working together.
Well, we did that day where we were really, really productive, and then you ordered Dominoes, and then we didn't have to do anything after that because we were falling asleep. It's like, yeah, we have something to eat now. We're well on the ball today. We're getting loads done, sort of thing. Yeah, there's pizza.
Oh, match of days on.
I'm going home now.
So are you recording in studios or at home?
At home.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've got a
So distractions
sort of
are easy.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've got a basic studio setup
But nice,
at
more
home,
relaxing.
and so we do the basics of recording the vocals at mine. You know, I've got a decent enough mic, and then we can take it to like, you know, a mate of ours that is good with engineering and sort of making it all sound, making it all shine.
Nigel, they're not using you anymore. What's going on?
It's a fair point.
What is going on? Why are you not using Nigel?
Well, I suppose financial, right? It's like it is an issue that we're working with labels on a friendly one-to-one basis. So like Beeline Recordings, for instance, big up Simon. There's no money in the sort of the setup on how to record the tracks. It's kind of an understanding of like, you provide us with the music, we'll put it out for you. You know, with the Cronin Inspired stuff, we have Mr. Stone, and he's bad.
Yeah.
He's got ears. He's got the ears for it. Do you know what I mean? And he knows how to get the right sounds out.
Yeah, wicked.
So
as long as you got that.
Oh, this is it. So and of course I'd love to work with Nigel again. In fact, Nigel worked on this album. We did 2 tracks with Nigel on the DEF TEX album. So that was the last time I worked with him. But and he's awesome.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know firsthand. Do you know what I mean? He knew how to get the right sound out, and because he had that ear for hip hop.
Yeah, definitely. So you as a child, now you walking into this school, and you've got a deal.
Like I say, we were all hard hip hop heads. So we're kind of like wanting to make hard hip hop and say, you know, trying to sell that to the label and say this is what we want to do. And they believed in us at the time. So it's like, okay, cool. Here's your advance. So I'm going back to school, starting doing my GCSEs, king of the tuck shop.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And like they, I remember the careers advice interview. The careers advice dude coming in and like sitting there. So Michael, what are you doing? What are you going to do with your life? I'm sorted. I don't even need to be here. I'm signed to 10 records, mate. You know, it's all good. I'm sorted. Yeah, I've already got money coming in my bank. I bought some decks last week. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, completely naive.
How long did that last?
I was getting £200 a month in my account, right?
Okay.
Which, to me,
I was
as
sorted.
a kid, my paper round was only £3.50 a week.
So
now I'm getting like, I can go down to the record shop and buy all the new tunes and da-da-da.
That's Marlon's weed money for the day.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I can.
Not this Marlon. Not Marlon, our sound guy. Marlon, the ambulance driver.
Oh yeah, that dude. He came and went earlier. That guy. Yeah.
That one. Yeah, the one. You know who he was.
Yeah. That's. I saw him. Yeah. He stunk of weed. Yeah.
A little whiff.
We've obviously like met a few times over the years doing shows and everything. I remember there was a record shop that came to one of our shows and bought a whole bunch of records when we were doing the mail order stuff.
That is.
Actually, show us the bag.
Yeah, so like I say, Paul, who runs Soundclash Record, it's still going, you know.
Yeah, still today.
All these years later. He really loved what we were doing. He loved what we were about, and wanted to get involved, you know. And there was, even though Norwich had a hip hop scene, there was no real artists. There weren't that many MCs. I think there was like a handful of us. We started a group called the East Anglian Rap Unit. But he saw that we had potential and was like, well, I'll help you out. I'll jump on this and you know, we'll go 50-50 and, you know. Like I say, he has a massive part to play. That shop has a massive part to play in the history of Norwich and the amount of DJs that came out and, you know, MCs that came out of the woodworks eventually. It did build, and that's all part to Soundclash, really. You know, without him, we wouldn't have had that.
Was there ever any kind of rivalries between, say, Berry and, you know, did you have people coming in with the aluminium bats and wanting to kill each other?
I mean, I heard of stories of like rocks going on, and after shows and stuff in the car park, they'd all go.
In the breaking days, I know something like Ipswich got chased out of Berry by Berry crew. They ran up to the train station or something. Someone's going to kick her. Yeah, they had them stories and stuff.
Right, so when we say Berry crew, we're not talking like Chester.
No.
Right, so we're talking Berry crew, Berry St Edmunds crew.
Yeah.
I was saying about hypothetical questions, so I got another one.
Yeah.
So do you think, if I haven't asked this before, but I want to ask you because I know you know your history, I know you know your music from an early age. Do you think if Public Enemy were from the UK, they would have had the level of success they did?
No.
Explain why.
Because the scene wasn't, you know, built that way, was it? It didn't have that following that they had in the States. I mean, who's to know? I mean, maybe if an A&R would have seen that hunger and that passion that they had, they were electrifying. Maybe, but I doubt it, because they were I mean, you have to say Hijack were the closest we had in this country to kind of that level, and it never really happened for them.
So what's your take on the question I asked about Public Enemy? Okay, that's good enough.
You know, on that, talking about, you know, small labels and the Beeline thing. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but this is like the B-Boy document. But he's done it as a Beeline recording special. And Beeline, you know, in a lot of ways, what Simon and Beeline Records are doing is not a million miles away from what Cold Sweat and Musical Life were doing originally all those years ago. You know, and just trying to focus on groups that he feels, you know, he trusts. And get that music out there and run with it. With myself, when we had our chat about where we want to go with it, he was very much kind of like, you know, I'm going to leave a lot of it for you, but I'm there.
Is that now?
Actually, yeah, we are going to go forward with new Chrome and Illinspired on Beeline Recordings. We've had a chat about it, so that's the next step.
Okay.
We're kind of 5 tunes in-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something like that. We're kind of, but you know, need to take it to the engineering stage and all of that. But it's kind of there. We're not far off on it. But I'm also working on my solo material as well as, and I've got a band that I'm working with, which is just Chrome plus.
How many piece band?
4-piece. So myself MCing, Tom on bass, Phil on guitar, and Super JB on production and cuts.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're doing that, but on AE Productions, which is Mr. Fantastic's label down in Bristol.
Wicked.
Yeah.
All right.
So A-side production by Jar One from Paris, from France, and then B-side production by Stevie Ebola, who used to do stuff with London Zoo Boys, I think.
Okay.
But he's now
with Dabbler and
but I think he's out in Canada now.
If you could rewind the clock back to the day when you called yourself Chrome, and you had the option, knowing what you know now, would you change your name to Google Chrome? And
Google Chrome.
Yeah.
Buy that name up.
Have you ever had that scenario where, because there's so many people with the same name, have you had any
there was a London garage DJ called DJ Chrome.
Okay.
This is in the MySpace days, and yeah, he approached me, sort of saying,
How did you
change
deal
your name,
with it?
change your name. I was like, no, here's my history, boom, boom, boom. You know, I've been named Chrome since 1984, and as soon as I told him about, like, you know, being signed to Virgin and recording under that name since like 87, he kind of went, oh, yeah, okay, and sort of backed off.
You know, I had a very similar situation.
And a Blade.
Yeah,
right,
that worked with Premiere.
Right.
And they had to change her name to Lady Blade or something.
Sonia Blade.
Sonia Blade, that's it.
Yeah.
Sonia Blade.
Yeah. So did that actually go to court? Or?
It didn't go to court. I ended up in a situation where they called me up and said, you have to change your name. And I'm like, I'm not changing my name. My name is what it is.
Yeah.
This girl has just come in. And apparently she was signed to Virgin as well. So I just left Virgin to deal with it. Next thing I know is it's coming out as Sonia Blade. The
amount of artists that are out there that probably don't go and Google Chrome.
Yeah.
Or whatever, you know, it's easily done. You can you find a name. I'll better just check that first.
Yeah, exactly.
But people don't do it, do they?
I think Bill, right next to you, had the right idea. He used a combination of two words, so it was a definitive thing. So first of all, I wanted to find out, when you came out with your name, were you ill, or were you just inspired by the ill?
Yeah, Beastie Boys, License to Ill.
Right.
Bad meaning good. So
Okay.
that's what the meaning of that is, basically. But yeah, it can work both ways, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So there's good and bad in life, and I'm inspired by all of it. So, do you know what I mean? And that's what makes me, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that name came along because I'd spent 2 years with the name Ill Bill. But then realising in that period that there's another MC in America, and I couldn't do it, just couldn't do it. It was really, really bugging me.
And it was a big name as well.
So I had this newer name, but then I was already sort of on flyers and stuff with
That's
that
it,
other name.
because when I first met him, he was Ill Bill,
Yeah,
and then
knew me as
non-fiction
that.
came about, and it was like, oh, right.
Everyone knew me as that, and I knew that there was this guy called Ill Bill in like '98, so it was really bugging me. But then I had that name sort of, and it came up, and it's when I first took opportunity to start using that.
Would you class yourself more as a skill rapper or as a message rapper?
I've always listened to MCs for technicalities and first, more than the lyrics. So, for instance, one of my favourite MCs is Pharoah Monch.
Yeah.
Right? Because his technical ability is just is ahead. He was ahead of everyone else, especially back then.
Way ahead.
And so I was always looking for MCs like that, like Mike and Iron from Freestyle Fellowship, for instance, and those kind of like your Percy P's and so on. So that's the kind of MC that when I write, I'm kind of style and flow first, lyrics second, which is quite backward. That's the way it always used to be, and a lot of my older stuff was, you know, people used to sort of say your lyrics are a bit abstract, a bit out there, because they didn't really make much sense. Whereas I suppose nowadays I've reined that in a bit. The first DEF TEX album that I showed you was very much a lot of those style sort of lyrics and kind of more technical and like really just showing off, right? And just almost like freestyle kind of showing off rhymes. It wasn't until the second DEF TEX album that we started getting into sort of subject matter and storytelling. And that's where I started to like really shift it. So all the years leading up to that was literally just like practice.
Yeah. And for you, it was a lot of energy.
Yeah, well, as I say, like that first KRS show I went to, that changed everything for me. But I think, yeah, that side of it, it was just that forceful, like full on. Do you know what I mean? You had that sort of thing. You had that KRS-ness, do you know what I mean? The presence and it was everything. And it was just chest out at the front sort of thing, you know. And it would just change, and you would control the room. That was it. And I was blown away by that.
Yeah.
You know, we obviously love hip hop. Like that was what we grew up with. But when we were growing up, there was so much different kinds of music that we accepted. Like, you know, I'd happily run down, you know, to go and watch, I don't know, Top of the Pops on a Thursday. I forget what time.
Thursday,
it was 7 o'clock,
7:30,
something like that.
Yeah.
I'd happily run down to watch Culture Club or Kate Bush or someone.
Yeah,
I was massively into like Adam and the Ants. You know, that was like my first love as a group to listen to. I was just like.
But you know, Adam and the Ants and groups like that, they were quite hip hop without being
totally.
hip hop.
Yeah. That energy was there, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you listen to the drums and.
But it's
kind
the
of
whole
rhythms
personality. It's like they were quite rebellious and.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And finding a persona of himself and just, you know, massively, hugely hip hop. Obviously, he did ant rap, you know. So it's like
forgot about that.
Is that one of the first UK hip hop?
Well, who was first, ant rap or wham rap?
I think ant rap.
Ant rap's well
But
before that,
I'd say that Paul Young's group, and they did Toast.
Oh yeah, Street Band.
That's like
Street Band. That's 78. He's rapping.
78.
Paul Young's rapping on that tune.
Serious?
Yeah, he's rhyming. It's really subtle, sort of like talking sort of thing, but he's dropping verses on that.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got bars.
I didn't even know.
Paul Young's got bars.
Yeah. Wow.
Can't find his hat anymore.
Yeah. We basically discussed earlier that, you know, I wanted to kind of also mention a couple of deeper things. You know, so, you know, the thing that we discussed was your brother.
Right.
And do you want to, and feel free to jump in as well, Bill, if you want to jump in on anything that affects you in the same way that you want to discuss. But do you want to discuss the situation with your brother?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been a roller coaster of a journey. So my brother was the producer for DEF TEX. He is part of the reason, or a big part of the reason why I do what I do. He kind of used to kick me up the arse, you know, you need to write more, you need to da. So love my brother, and And then in '97, he got hit by a car. He was a pedestrian crossing the road, and a taxi came, wiped him out, right? And I was there, I was with him, so I saw him like flip up in the air, land, crack his head.
Were you not directly with him and you get hit? Obviously.
No, I'd already crossed the road.
Okay.
And we'd been out,
Right.
like a club night sort of thing, but we weren't that drunk. We just kind of a few drinks.
What went through your mind when you
I
see
thought he was
that?
dead. I thought, that's it, he's dead, because there's blood splitting out, like everything. I was like, okay, he's dead. Crying my eyes out, you know. A couple other friends as well. Luckily, where it happened was literally on the road of the hospital.
Oh, wow.
So like people were just like immediately like, 999, you know, got the hospital to come, and they took him to the hospital, and then eventually took him down to Cambridge to Addenbrooke's, where they do the head specialist and stuff, neurology, and he ended up in a coma for a month or so, and it was hard, you know. Like I ended up moving into his flat and helping him with stuff like being a carer, and throughout this whole time, music was just like gone. Do you know what I mean? My head was like.
Is that the year when you didn't release anything?
Yeah, so it's the 1 year, I think, where actually nothing came out. But what came out of that, and what changed, was living with my brother. We started to actually, you know, once he got well, we started making tunes together, and out of that, he got into a new style of producing and making beats, and he shifted it from where he was to this new sound, and it was like, oh wow, okay, you know. And that's where we took the new DEF TEX stuff to Sun Records and released the Serene Bug album. We did this track called Synchronize and another track called Poetic Speech Techniques, which I remember him making both of those beats in this flat where we lived together. And I remember sitting there like, wow, I've not heard you make stuff like this before. Like, where's this come from? And he's like, I don't know, I've just got a renewed kind of lust for it, you know. But it was hard. And years down the line, actually, a few years back, he ended up on chemo, had cancer. He was ill, like to the point where he'd signed an end of life form. And we were like told 2 or 3 weeks at most.
Wow.
So I remember being there on a Christmas day with my mum, took my mum there, and we sat there, and I remember him looking like really thin, like there's nothing left of him. And I remember, I was like crying. I remember leaving the hospital in tears, and my mum crying her eyes out, and just thinking, that's it, it's the last time I'm going to see him. Next time it's going to be a phone call saying, you know, he's passed. Miraculously, he responded to the
chemo.
Yeah. And it worked. And he's like, yeah. Months later, it's like, you got the all clear, you're good. So it's like, I mean, I'm not religious in any way, but I'll tell you, if there's anything out there, then something happened. I don't know what happened, but you know, that was quite a moment. I then, after that, lived through my sister having cancer. She passed away, so I had all of that to deal with, and that, yeah, it's been a tough few years actually. The last sort of 5 years, It's been heavy, but I've got a loving wife and beautiful family that they're there for me. Do you know what I mean? So it's good. But what, you know, as hard as that stuff is, I can always find music to come back to, and it's something that you can get lost in, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, at the same time, how do you listen to music in the same way when you know your brother's pretty much on his deathbed?
Well, you need to have times by yourself, and I find music really comforting.
Okay.
And I'm a massive music head. I'm a hip hop head from the old days, but actually, I'm a music head. You know, I'll listen to anything. Literally anything goes, pretty much, as long as it's good music, which I'm sure you appreciate as well. You know, and obviously, you were saying earlier about being into hip hop, it takes you down different avenues. Obviously, with sampling, you discover all sorts of different sounds, and you know that having that kind of release, I'd sit there sometimes and just stick headphones on and get lost in it. And it's a good way of like...
Yeah, it's escapism.
Escapism, yeah, that's it, yeah.
You mentioned obviously the passing of your sister and the fact that your brother also ended up with cancer and was getting chemo. You've recently done a track as well, which... Yeah,
alongside yourself, which I still haven't heard the verse yet, but
neither
I'm
have
sure...
I, to be honest.
Right. So. But yeah, Del, you know, and much love to Del, and much, you know, sending positive vibes out and energy to you, mate. You know, keep fighting. He approached me and said, I'm a massive fan of your music, massive fan of DEF TEX. Are you up for doing a track? And I was like, yeah, of course. What's it about? And he's like, I'm doing a track called Fuck Cancer, you know, and I've got Napa doing the beats, and Phil Most Chill on it, and yourself on it. And I was like, yeah, 100%. And like, you know, but as soon as that was my initial response. And then I went away and I was like, how am I going to do this? I've got to write a verse that is basically going to relate to me. He had no idea that I'd lost my sister and that I had this struggle with my brother, because I don't really put that sort of stuff on social media, do you know what I mean?
Are you cool with putting it out on this?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. And, you know, it was actually a moment of being able to deal with it, you know, and sit down and write, and actually, because I hadn't properly, like...
Let it sink in.
Yeah, and like breathe my way through it. And this was a chance to actually do that. So I sat there for about half a day, like writing the verse. And I remember sort of looking back on it at the end and being like, okay, yeah, that's done it. I've made peace with it now, you know. Yeah. So big up to Del. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Del. And thanks for asking me as well to do it. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad that it was for a really positive cause, as in terms of what we're trying to put the message out there and everything. But obviously your situation, I wish you a full recovery.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're all here. Like, we're one big hip-hop family now, innit? So we're here for each other. Is there anything else that you want to say before we finish off? Any releases you got coming out?
Well, I mean, yeah, I suppose like a bit of self-promotion, if you like. The Chrome Plus material, the single should be out soon on AE Productions. Album to follow. Then Chrome and Illinspired stuff will be next up quite soon. We've finished a track featuring Suspect and TS1 from the Mantis chapter.
Okay.
Hopefully, I think that's going to be a Naked Ape release first and then Beeline Recordings. What else is going on? I have a weekly radio show on a community radio station in Norwich called Future Radio.
Right, so you've actually moved up to radio level now.
Yeah, so at the start of lockdown 2020, I was offered a weekly radio show. It's on every Friday night, 6 till 8, and it's a soul and funk show. But no, the radio show's been good as well, because I did the first one actually at the studio, and then lockdown hit, and I had to do everything from home. But it's been fun, and I tell you what, I delved into it, and I've been discovering amazing new music that's, you know, a lot of UK acts as well that I was not aware of. There's some amazing UK soul, like neo soul stuff that's just, you know, mind-blowing music.
Yeah,
so yeah, if you want to go and check it, every Friday, 6 till 8.
Okay, wicked. How about yourself, Bill?
Not a huge amount going on at the moment. Sort of.
That's great. We'll move on then.
Yeah, just sort of. It's a bit of a change. There's been a lot going on in the last year and stuff. Yeah, sort of 18 months. It's up and down all over the place. So yeah, it's just sort of coming out of a bit of a crappy spell, basically.
It's been funny, isn't it? Funny old time.
Yeah, it's been really up and down, right, proper
But
up and down.
But you're feeling positive now.
A little bit more, yeah, definitely. It's a case of, you know what I mean. I've been a bit ill, and been trying to get sort of a bit of help with the doctors, and they're not really helping and stuff. So I know I've just got to sort it myself. I've got to do it myself, sort of thing, instead of relying on other people and stuff.
Yeah.
So I know, but getting back into music, doing more stuff and that, even coming down here, it's going to change a few things, you know, and make us feel better.
Well, I hope it does, man, because like I said, we are one big hip hop family.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? We've been there for each
Big
other
up,
for
man.
God knows how long.
You know that. You know
what I mean?
Yeah.
And even when we're quiet, we're still there.
I wanted to get a T-shirt made up saying "beatboxing, grow up," sort of thing. But it's that sort of thing, you know. It's like it's never going to go anywhere. We're not going to grow up to a certain extent.
You're cute.
But yeah, we're not.
Yeah, he's got you on
that. Do you know what I mean? So it's like that's what we do. So nothing's going to change, and nothing can change us. It's a life force, you know what I mean? And that's what keeps me going to a certain extent, you know, from a little boy and stuff, and teaching him like bits and bobs, and his beatboxing's coming along and stuff, and he does a lot of rhyming. You know, it's all gobbledygook, but it's lovely, and he can tell he loves it. He loves it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, definitely. So yeah. So that's you know, that's what I'm concentrating on.
I'd just like to shout out my family as well, and big up to my daughter Evie Wonder and my other daughter Grandmartha Flash.
Grandmartha Flash, you know.
Big up to Bubbles, Wibbles, Harrison, my little boy.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, there's a few other shout outs we could do as well, I suppose.
Yeah. Big up DJ Just One.
Yeah, Just One. Lord Bongsun, Dr. UG, DBL, DJ Damage.
Force 10.
Force 10, yeah.
All crew.
The Mike Stone, important people in our lives, you know.
Wicked.
We have to shout those out.
Yeah, yeah.
If you want to find out more about Chrome and Illinspired, be sure to follow them on their connection pages. All the relevant links can be found in the description below. Please comment, like, share, and make sure you subscribe to the channel and click on that bell to receive the notifications. Thank you for watching, and thanks again, guys, for being here.
Boom.
Peace.
Yes, indeed.
Peace. Nice one. Thank you.